Alright, folks, welcome back, everyone. 欢迎大家回来。今天是第528天 It is day 528. Let's get into our lessons here. Our recall,
炫
more or
弄
less. 炫弄. So 弄 is weak. I think I only have like 1 or 2 uses of 弄 I can think of. And 炫 is the weak one. Or 炫 is the new one that we're using this vocabulary for, which is to actually it's not that new, it's kind of like in the middle. It's to show off. I actually was fine with I typed showy, kind of a showy related thing. However, this is an opportunity to combine two characters that are somewhat on the weak side. Not too bad.
炫弄
This was a inclusion because there's a word that I can
斟酌
utilize. 斟酌. 斟 is fine. 酌, like, so these two are slightly weak in the sense that the pouring wine thing is kind of contemplative. So like it's more like serving something. So we include this in order to understand that is to consider or pour alcohol, but consider is the thing that was coming from a recent Japanese phrasing as well. So both of them is to make allowances or to take into consideration. Taking into consideration, both of these characters deal with that. So the act of service, when you're serving someone, aka like pouring wine, you're considering something. So I threw this in logically because both of these are also defined by their service, the pouring alcohol. I think Zhen is weaker than Zhuo. Not that much though. Both of them are pretty weak. This one was the Japanese character. Shaku. Shaku was the kanji that was in my most recent. I don't know where Zhen is. Yeah, I'm not sure the kanji. Not off the top of my head.
斟酌
The vocabulary word that was paired with shaku was something else. Oh no, it was a kana. So it was a phrase. Like that's awful, and it uses a kana. It didn't have like, I don't think it was a compound word. Like a, I don't know if I remember a jukuko of this. Interesting.
苟存
Go Chen. So go is a little bit weak. The translation is, it looks like go though. And go in this case is kind of helpful. So go is careless, right? Careless or without thought. And then when you're carelessly existing, this is a deep cut into some of the things that I take very personally, or not personally, but I encounter personally. The drifting through life bit, kind of a common topic that I encounter. So very memorable.
苟存 灰烬
Wei Jing. Jing was the weak one, which is cinder. It looks like Jing with fire. So Jing with fire. Although I keep what prompted me to include this is I look at Jing and then I think about Jing as in like exhausted or used up or tired or like entirely exhausted situation, like to exhaust all energy, and then I just ignore the fire, which is cinder. And I often thought cinder as the other way, but I'm thinking of a kindle. So kindle is like auspicious to some extent, and the cinder is like fading away, like the other direction. They both describe something that is like a smallish fire, so to speak. So this is helping me contextualize cinder, which is hui. Hui is ash. So ash and cinder are closer together than say in ember and a ash, right? Which I don't think they're together. It's probably something more like a kindle and an ember together. That's how I'm imagining it at the moment.
灰烬、屋檐、
Wu Yan. So I forget eaves all the time. And eaves are those like overhangs in houses. So this will help me out because Wu is house. So Wu Yan. It'll remind me of what this is. It looks like it can be Yuan, Chang, and the primary or Jiang and Dang are Jiang are the primaries for this like gigantic thing here. But Yan is an exception, and Yan is an exceptional meaning as well. So next to Wu, that helps out.
屋檐、
There's another ease. Yi. I don't know if Wu Yi is a thing. Wu Yi. No idea. Okay. Oops. I didn't type the whole thing.
炫弄、 苟存、 屋檐、
Heck. My voice broke. My bad.
灰烬、
I've been pushing my voice very, very rigorously the last couple of days. Reading in the jungle Dave the Diver DLC dialogue. Voice can break every once in a while. Oh, wait. That's draw. Excuse me.
斟酌、 侯爵、
Ojie. Okay, so Marquise is a problem largely because I immediately think of Ho, which is to wait. There's one stroke down here. Oh, so this is Ho, which is the Marquise, and it's kind of hard to remember the definition otherwise as well, the translation. So if you put it next to nobility, though, this is one of the gold standards that I'm looking for. Two weak characters, but when they're together, it makes it very obvious. Because Jie is a weak one for nobility. It also has a similar problem where you add one radical to the left, and it will become Chu. I think it's mouth. And the right is what holds the character. So this whole character is Jie, and this whole character on the right is Ho. So Ho Jie. So then Ho Jie. And then together, if you have a marquise is nobility. I could mix this up with Duke. just the idea of a nobility. I could pivot from duke. I need to understand that this is the marquis.
侯爵
In the English, 侯爵 in the English sense. Wait, I thought I had 6.
侯爵
Did I? Did I not have? Oh yeah, 6. 5 plus 1. This is on the lower side yesterday. I did skip our active recall yesterday. It looks like I have a feeling this is on infinite scroll. It hasn't reached a cap yet. I was expecting it to reach a cap of 121 and then the rest would be ... box. Which works to my advantage that it keeps going. Because I don't really want it to stop going longer. Because we haven't really lead into our vocabulary in order to rotate these out. I kind of don't want to rotate these out. In a way. There is a chance they will, by chance. Alright, let's go to our character studies. The infinite circle. Okay. What? I thought that was fell. Oh. No, it's missing a stroke. Hold up. Oh no, it's not. Oh. Okay. That was the person. Do I have halberd for this? Whoops. Am I using a halberd? Oh. He's getting his fingers on a halberd. Just write it a little bit differently here. Okay. Quick misread.
刀
Darn. Chatter. uh.
笔 长
Japanese helps there. Oops. Intestine. Okay. Now I want to say tray,
催
but which tray? It's not destroy. This is like sponsor or urge or like. Oh no! It's tray. Alright, hold up. Let me make sure. So, finger is urge. No. Person is urge. Finger is destroy, right? It'll become apparent in a sec here. So, tway, right? Yeah. Tway is to push or urge someone, like to shove forward, basically. For finger. Oh no, finger is not destroy. Finger is urge and push. Then is person destroy? Oh no. Person is urge. Finger is also push. So tway is push. Che is to urge the person, right? And there's destroy, which is finger. Oh, I misread. This is correct. This is correct. Finger is destroy with the mountain. Tway doesn't have a mountain. So these trays are the two. And then tray alone is just tray. There's no other. I'm gonna be surprised if I find anything other than a proper noun. So these three trays right here. Tray, and tray. They're all trays. And you have to remember the group. And this is what I remembered, and I failed. Let's go see. The odds of this producing anything other than proper nouns is the reason why I'm weak. Like, I'm weak in it because it's either going to be the meaning is either going to be destroy or urge, not the proper noun. It's still a tray though. Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Tray way or tall. That's a different way though. Oh no, that's not a different way. That's just a way tall. We could use this. Not that it's probably not that much of a use. Like, I don't even know how tray is being operated though. Everything else. Oh, here's one. Tray, another tray way. Rocky Mountains. In this case is way for the other towering. Probably. This is probably dealing with mountains, like something tall. So I'm getting the impression that it has something to do with tallness. Does that line up with destroy and urge? Not really. Yeah, I think we're just gonna stick with Trey. Wei is a weak character, so I was gonna consider adding this because Wei. We do have a vocabulary word for Wei now. Wei, the two towering or tall. There's also Shen. Shen had a tall as well. Lots of the tall, high things, they have different uses. Tall, like in status. Tall, as in tall means like better, higher in rank, and so it can apply to so many things. Like, is it higher in what we already said, rank, spirit? Any type of emotion is better. Like, it's an intensifier as well. So like this doesn't really help with anything. Although memorize, like, some of these ones I'm gonna have to group all of these at some point, which is they're just the names. So we have our examples are like Tao, Qi, Heng, Lu, Lu. There's quite a them. Yi, Chang, Yang. I think we have a good amount of names. I don't know. So here's an interesting question about this. Are there any syllables in which a name does not have? I reckon very few, if any. If there is a reed that isn't attached to a name, like there's a specific sound that has not been used for people's names. I'm kind of curious about that. But so far with all the characters, and we're specifically talking about a reed including the tone, like a specific reed and tone that doesn't exist or is avoided intentionally not to be used in people's names, or a place name or something like that. Would be curious. For the time being, I'm assuming there's gonna be a character for every like proper noun usage thing. Now, you could make an argument, well, other people use other characters, I'm specifically talking about a character that was specifically used for proper nouns. Like, their primary use is for the proper noun, the sound proper noun. So I'm not talking about the cases where like Shibanya, right? Shibanya are three characters that have a primary meaning. They use it as transliteration or something like that. Like nothing of that nature. More the character's primary use is the sound. Which in this case, Che is one of them, for the time being at least. Outside of the one example.
脚
Metal. That's probably. I think I can find another one. I think this one's not that great. Jiao Lian is not great. It's a hinge. Well, like, it's cut with scissors and a chain put together. Not the greatest with a hinge. Let's try to see if there's anything else that helps me. So, Jiao Lian is our default. A reamer? I don't know what a reamer is. Here's another door hinge. It feels like it's more the hinge than a cut with scissors. I don't even know what the cut with scissors. I guess there are scissors here. What is this? 蝴蝶脚. 蝴蝶脚. Ooh? The what? Oh, butterfly. Wait, is this butterfly? Oh, I get it. The scissors that look like butterflies, but oh, it's a shape. Interesting. All right. A reamer. I don't actually know what a reamer is. English. Get an image. A reamer is a rotary tool with sharp, cutting edges used to precisely enlarge or smooth the interior. Oh. Well, that's not going to be very helpful. At the moment. So, interesting. I think we're not gonna. Why? We're still stuck with Jiao Dian. So let's add a hinge. Yeah, it's to scissor. Like the hinge is a scissoring thing. Like it's the motion of scissoring. So I like the hinge thing. We'll pivot to hinge. The butterfly thing is pretty cute because a butterfly, when you think of the flapping of a butterfly, it's kind of like a scissoring motion. To describe hinge. We're gonna use hinge from now on for that. And then be careful, it's person, that's Phil.
找
And then batter. I immediately wanted to type Qing, but then I thought maybe it's Lung and Li. Dang it. It's Jing for pacify. It's the blue guard. Pardon. Maybe pardon is a thing. Let's find out. To put down a rebellion. Oh, okay. Still largely used as a pronoun. Or I mean a proper noun. There is a bunch of suppressing things. Oh no, okay. I see some more stuff here. put down a rebellion. 定乱. Ding Luen. Ding Luen. Chu Jing. That's weird. Oh no, wait. Here, okay. Pacify. Sui Jing. How does the sui part work? Yeah, oops. Appease. Okay, I think we're sure. Let's go with this one. Chaos is something.
静乱
Jingluan is not Lun. Jingluan. Jingluan. It is something to pacify. This one is pretty tough.
真
Yo, what? I can't unsee Don. Don or Tun. Da? Oh, right. It's a pivot off of Daybreak. So this occurs too. So you take the Don and then you chop it. So I took a 50-50. It's a 30. It's kind of like a. This one is kind of a 30 a 50-50 in one situation where it's either Dan or Tan, and then there's an exception, which is Da. Not really, honestly. Tan only occurs once. That character. Tan. Okay. This is again the same issue. The chances of me finding a word with this is probably fairly low. It's probably mostly proper noun, and we only have one entry. Alright, well, this will continue to be Da. So it's the female daywalker. Well, we're gonna call it the female daywalker. That's how I'm gonna. Or Dracula. So I immediately want to write Lee. Probably.
理
And hurry, right? Yeah, so this one needs help because it has nothing to do with eating or like something with the mouth. The closest thing is to imagine eating curry, and then the right is Lee, like the right. Kari is what I think of when I think of curry. Yep, Kali. Oh, it's Kali. Kali. Oh, it uses ka from coffee. Jelly. Jelly. Oh, I didn't even know jelly. Jelly is jelly. Yeah, Kali fen. Gali fen. Maybe I should add more than just gali. No, gali will work. I might have said gali a little differently because in Fujianese it's still these two, like, phonetically. The tone is a little bit different. Gali. Like the K. The K sometimes sounds like G. So Kali. Do they have a G? Oh, they do. They do have a G. How do I know that? Restaurant business. Kali. Um, I remember. This is like a short story. I remember when I was a kid, I kept thinking they're trying to say garlic, garlic, but garlic is not gali. Curry is. So we have like two. We have two types of powders, right? They're curry powder, like a cumin, right? Cumin powder, and then we have garlic powder, like white and black garlic powder stuff, like specifically white garlic powder. So whenever they said gali, I thought they were saying garlic, and they were reaching for the garlic, but then it ends up being a jar of cumin, the curry powder, and that's what stuck with me when I was a teenager, knowing that gali is curry, and then kari, right? Kari. Is that one or two beats? Japanese then follows up on it. Oh, kore. Yeah, kore would be closer to what I would have think it was curry. Like gali end up being like, oh, okay. It took me a while to know that they were referring to, whoops. Oh, yeah. Yeah, referring to curry and not garlic. Okay.
打归
We're just gonna use measurement for that. Whether it's ancient or not, the toss up. Oh no. The boomboxing. This is shock. Wrong place. Yeah. Or stunned. Shocked. Not like being shocked as in like figuratively, but really actually being stunned. And I picked the wrong location. It's obviously, when I say shocked, it was supposed to remind me that it's electricity, which is the electric power plant, which I failed. Let's look at this. Stunned. Where is there another word? Is there another character? Maybe like Shen for dazzled. Stunned and dazzled. Ran. That doesn't really help too much because ran is the nature of something. So the condition of being stunned, which is still stunned. 错愕, astonished or startled, with mistake, shocked, astonished, yeah, being startled as in like countering. 惊, oh, that is a 惊, surprise, oh, literary, like to stupefy, that makes sense, surprise. We'll use this. I kind of like it. 错 doesn't get much love other than it's so colloquially used. 错 is really like 不错, right? 不错. Yeah, let's go with that. Oops.
饿
I don't think it's. Dang it! It's probably you or abundant. The suit is the key. You is the read on the right. Yeah, affluent. All right.
柳
I have no idea what type of tree you are, or if you have anything to do with the tree. Are you a lemon? Are you a pomegranate? Oh my gosh, you're a pomegranate. Alright. Immediately I wanted to type E. And then I wanted to type J. And then I wanted to type Joe. Oh no. Okay, I got too many mix. It's J. Okay, for swamp. Uh, should have went with the J. Do I have the swamp? Yep, I have the double swamp. Fine, alright.
泽
Jiao for double swamp. It's as ideal as one can get. This is not yen. Or is it yen? It's not yen. Yen has a radical to the left. I'm gonna say it's probably yen, a ying. Oh yeah. Alright, hold up. This is the tiger shark thing. The tiger shark in the aquarium. I actually have no idea how this works. Like, I don't know what ying is supposed to be. Okay, well, the year of the tiger. Sure. Sign of the tiger. Ying shi. Oh, Ying Hu doesn't really work, though, for Year of the Tiger. It's Tiger... Oh, no, actually, this works. Or not really. Oh, Sign of the Tiger and Tiger? Okay. It's... Okay. Eating years, and then names... Dealing with years... Alright, we'll use this. The other tiger is stronger. So this is a sign. It's specifically the sign of the tiger. It's kind of like Chun, the sign of the dragon. If I look up Chun, probably it does the same thing. Maybe it's like Cheng Long, or like the year of the dragon. I wouldn't be surprised. And how do I screw this up? Blue. Blue is how I screw. Oh no, wait. I have a different location too. It's in the English manner. Because this is Jing, the rightist.
玉苍
This is blue. It's weird. Or like dark blue. Guess navy blue is not a bit of a dark blue. That's Kong. I think that's Kong. Kong. Hold on. The heckin' umbrella, hairy umbrella. Hairy umbrella is tough. Some part of me wanted to type. Nope. 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 Jun. Oh, this is for dinos. I think we're gonna change up the umbrella and the hair. It's a constant weakness. The umbrella and the hair. So I went with no, No, Jung is stronger. No, Jung is really strong. Dang. I screwed the pooch. This is what I was thinking to take advantage. There should be one more. Oh, I guess not. Okay, so much stronger. So I guess I can simplify it to the idea that this is specifically the re. I've been using hat hair. So these are the three. This one's fairly good because of the sickness. Precious is pretty good because of the scepter. Not this though. Word is less strong. Keep that in mind. So Jung is reserved. These might I don't view this as the same as this anymore. This is actually with participation. So these things are grouped with participation. And then there's one other. The feathers on top of the hat, they're special. So the feathers are special. All three of these are special. So I have to remember them separately. And then I believe that's all of this is special because it's not dealing with air situation. It's more of a you related thing. Gonna be how we group them. I don't think there's a replacement. I have to know. That's a foundation.
静 君
Pounds. Maybe we can look for another one. Is there something like Zhong, like heavy? Your instructions. What the? 1,000 pounds hangs by a thread. What? Okay, we're just gonna keep thinking about. I'm gonna write heavy for that one.
T 赢 变
Yo, what? This one's weird. Tiptoe is weird. Probably line up with T, probably. ENT. I want to say. Oh no. No, I don't know. I dropped the bottom. It's a bundle of bills. Oh, it's probably. What? Oh, it's Sue. Sue. Russell. Yeah, we did the onomatopoeia for that.
交
That's not whale. Or is it whale? No, Jing is whale. Are you a whale too? I don't think you're a shark. Are you a carp? Okay.
枕
Okay. The bottom is important. It doesn't have mountain, but for whatever reason, I was leaning towards sky. No.
西
This is Russell. The other Russell.
蒙
That's weird. Heck! I took a leap of faith on that one. Didn't think about it. We'll come back. No way this is pay. What is that? It's a mountain garden. Oh, it's a bay of some sort, probably.
Who
Dang it! You're thinking of the mountain. Oh. It's Luan. Or mountain range. Oh no, it's probably cool from the for Buddha or Bodhisattva Bodhisattva, but I don't know how to properly. Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva. I just truncated to Buddha to help out. It's an exception. Who is an exception? To like pay and bay. The flowers are the key. We already have the two Buddhas together.
素
How do we do them together? uh. Oh, the metal. Oh, right. I'm gonna write heavy for this. Only thought is Faye. Or Faye. Hmm. Oh, no way. It's Faye. Poor Kingfisher. Dang it. It caught right when I don't know if there's gonna be Faye Che. I don't know what that is. And then it's a bird. So I either know if it's a bird or not. Let's look at what jade. Oh, that's a jadeite is a. Oh, it is related to jade, the jade. Interesting. Or a bird related thing. I don't think either is gonna help. Che is jade though. Maybe I'll use the jade thing going forward. We'll add jade. Elcian. It's either gonna be the bird or the jade. So look.
卵 匪 胡
Oh, we only have 30 for the day? That's what we're gonna do for today. It's getting shorter and shorter, which is good because we're gonna go into our month of vocabulary soon. I'm getting some extra rest for tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a really big day, followed by another big day. Tomorrow is the Phantom X, Persona 5, the Phantom X's anniversary. We're gonna be covering probably spending the vast majority of the day doing that. And then the following day is Wanikani's level 60, which will be a very long day as well. We're wrapping up June's projects, right? Or like wrapping up very ongoing and long projects for June. I really enjoy doing this. Like, it's fun just looking at all the dictionary things. Now, the dictionary is not complete either. So, that's kind of a thing. I like that I think this is an infinite scroll. So, this is my Carpendium. This is a record keeping of ever since we started the word discovery thing, which was about halfway into the week or halfway into the month. And on average, we're looking at the average is getting lower because there are fewer characters in the queue. So I want to it's still a very long time before I do my next 100 review, the 600-day review. However, I've already consolidated a type of approach that I'm going to do. And it's very different now. And I look forward to discussing it pretty much. So I have one routine that's going on to summarize is that it's the word discovery one, where I'm using all of my character studies to connect the words. So the words are now the tether to the character studies. And each word is a voluntary decision that I'm making now. So that's different from being provided the word. And when I voluntarily look at the words a specific way, when we go back through older characters, right, which again, I have to remind myself to mention that I am going in the other direction too. So I am going over all the mastered characters from time to time. So I do look at these characters. And then I think about the words going forward. And then if they come up again in sentences or later down the road, we're converging, going from the later groups and then the earlier groups are going forward and backwards, and they're being connected based on their words. Once that is happening, I think next month, we're going to continue this kind of pattern. And then the following month is when we're going to start writing sentences. It gives me enough time to adjust to a new routine. I enjoy this far more now. Like, the enjoyment is going up because I'm also getting into my comfort zone. This is my comfort zone. So, knowing that I'm getting to my comfort zone, I must also now consider ways to challenge myself. Because if I don't challenge myself in my comfort zone, I'm going to become too laxed and maybe cut corners and whatnot. So I'm trying to keep myself vigilant in character studies. The character studies was the abnormal thing. The SRS part is no longer a thing. Of course, I haven't been using the whole SRS thing for quite some time now. I think despite Duolingo not using what people refer to now as SRS, like the dynamic SRS. SRS was not dynamic before it was dynamic. It's neat that technology has now allowed you to do this, right? Make it dynamic. However, I was a one size fits all kind of kid. When you went to school, you were doing SRS. It happens to be a static SRS though. There's a reason why homework is spaced out the way it is between people, right? Like, yes, there are human variations, curriculum variations, but curriculum is a static one size fits all averaging effect of SRS. You are spacing out your evaluations and activities in order to promote it. With the inauguration, right, the indoctrination, I suppose. Sometimes it feels like an indoctrination at this point, or the institutionalization of apps online, dynamic SRS, or even more so FSRS, which the F to me simply means flexible SRS. This is the marrying of, okay, well, now you don't need a curriculum. You don't need some expert to provide the curriculum. You are responsible for proliferating that. Well, HanziHero and Wanikani proliferated the content, right? And then apply the algorithm. Whether it's useful or not, I'm agnostic. I'm indifferent. You work, the habit is what works, not its approach, in my opinion. I don't think it provides a significantly improved, like, to me, when all the dust settles, I do not believe it provides a statistically appreciable difference between someone who simply ended up adopting a habit. So SRS, the reason it works, in my opinion, is to help someone adopt a new consistent habit. The dynamic part, the argument of, oh, but SRS can help you be more efficient. It keeps gauging the furthest point in which you forget something. Like, that's well and good. If you are going to tell yourself for the rest of your life, you're going to keep maintaining that through memorization recognition. That is the reason why I do not believe that this is a statistically significant way to produce adequate high-level comprehension. If you don't need high-level comprehension, if you're not interested in any higher dynamic understanding outside of memorization and recognition in order to pass an exam or overcome something that you don't like to remember or study, SRS is great. SRS produces the foundation of a habit. The habit could be a fixed curriculum, going to school. It could be going to class, finding a tutor, and you're obligating yourself to meet in a tutor. Moving to a country that enforces certain standards on you. All of those things produce habits. They are a contributor of habits. Your environment, your positive, negative reinforcements, positive, negative punishments, your obligations, your sustaining life skills, all of them are reinforcements for your habit. So the most important thing, in my opinion, the most valuable thing about SRS is how you can do it for free. You can, lots of apps use SRS systems. And when I think of SRS, for me, I know I'm generalizing a bit to save some time. Habit is the underlying value of SRS. If you do not have a consistent method of producing habit, obligation, right, or some sort of consistency, the one way to do that is using modern SRS. If you already have that in place, your mileage may vary, because when you have something in place, it might conflict with SRS. So then that's when FSRS came around, where it produces more flexibility. To me, maximizing the FSRS and SRS, or going, like, wanting to go to classes or going to a tutor, you need to do all of those things. Like, so the question is, can you do all those things? Well, now we're entering life skills. That's time management, critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and methodological, like, experimental design, like scientific method related things. If you're not skilled in those things, then regardless of how much you use SRS, FSRS, or like go to school, you're going to have to use those skills eventually. Like, when you go to work, it's not SRS anymore. It's not this SRS. It's not FSRS. It's going to work. If you're going to learn how to conduct an experiment, it's no longer FSRS, SRS. It's time management, habit formation, deductive reasoning, critical thinking, right? It's those things, because those are the things that will adapt to any schedule, adapt to any consistency. Working out is not SRS, but you could certainly convert it into SRS. Like, for example, what does that look like? A fitness tracker. Hey, you look at your data, SRS, you look at your data, it's like, it's time for your running exercise. So to me, SRS, FSRS, classroom, tutor, those are examples of space repetition. They are examples of spacing something out in a different way or customizably in order for you to develop a consistency. Because consistency is one of the, it's not only one of the most understood, like, here's the irony of all this. Here's the paradox. The idea and the conceptual understanding of consistency is so well known now. It's so well known and felt that I would say the majority of young people that I meet trivialize its importance. And how do I know this for sure, is because they look at FSRS and SRS and they think that it's goated. It's like something that they've never encountered in their life. And yet the very nature of them being unable to study a language, to stick to something for a long time, is because they have an SRS in their life that works really, really well and makes everything else so difficult to do. What is that? Gaming addiction, doom scrolling, dopamine hits, constant laziness, chronic boredom, depression. What are those things? They're all SRS. Like, to me, the trigger is that they exist consistently. So when they exist consistently, what are you competing with? Well, if you want to learn Japanese, you're competing with your depression, because depression comes up more often in your life than learning Japanese. Sometimes people would associate those two. If you're constantly depressed every time you get up, and then you're constantly depressed while studying Japanese, or Chinese, every time you study Chinese or Japanese, you're going to feel depressed. That is a habit association. So, hear me out. What's a great way to practice different ways of SRS? Well, I said this yesterday for a really long time during, I was on a digression in Chinese. I study at my best. So when I'm healthy, happy, high in energy, I study. So then when I go to study, I feel like I have energy. That's combining an existing habit that is positive with another habit that may use energy. So that's elevating SRS. It's understanding how your habits form as a human being. So SRS plays into habit formation. And it's not a coincidence that almost all of them correlates with being an app or gamification, because gamification is SRS. And I talked about this yesterday in a very crude and possibly give a counterexample of something that's not positive in SRS. What's not positive in SRS? Doom scrolling, login bonuses, gotcha games, regular incentives to do the minimum amount of work to get dopamine hits. Like, for example, log into your game and they throw virtual currency at you. Doom scroll with lots of flashy lights and hyperstimulation. Those are regular intervals of stimulation over time. SRS just happens to sit in an area where it's telling you to do something with a different activity that you otherwise wouldn't do. So the difference, in my opinion, is if you're using the word grind with something you are doing repeatedly, then in my opinion, I would highly encourage the person to ask yourself what else is being part of the trigger. Because a grind and excitement, a grind versus having fun, the difference is not its frequency. It's what's being associated with it. But technically, that you could argue it can lead back to frequency. Like when you go to study, are you always tired? Because if you're always tired comes first. So how would you break that cycle? Try to not be tired when you're studying. That's a positive source of reinforcement. A negative source of reinforcement can work too. Like if you don't study, you're going to get a bad grade, or that's actually that's a negative punishment. A negative feedback would be something like, you study and you become tired, and that lets you keep going. Because if you don't get tired, you wouldn't feel like you've done a lot of studying. That's a negative reinforcement, right? You have a negative stimuli, a negative tell that is triggering you to continue. That's a grind. That's what you describe as a grind. When you grind, you feel good. You think you feel good because you worked hard. So it can end up being positive stress, negative stress moment. It's kind of hard to think about it. I think oftentimes people is a mixed bag. It's positive and negative stress. For myself, I use a trigger that I know and then I do it. So, for example, I know that I perform best when I am most rested. And so the reason why I feel most rested is because before that, I learned how to be rested regularly. So if you are able to be rested, that's another habit. Good sleep hygiene can be coupled with being rested, and being rested can be coupled with anything else you want to do. So, to me, this is where the SRS conversation is happening. Like, SRS is not the content. It's not dependent on whether it's gamified or not. It's habit formation. Habit is independent of its context. The context can help. Like, for sure, the context can help. You can say you love Japanese, so you can grind through the habit, right? Fair enough. I really, honestly, the value of this, of repeated exposure and consistency doesn't require that you be interested in it. That is why SRS, in my opinion, works as a silver bullet sometimes. Because the silver bullet is you could hate the thing you can build a habit for. And that can work. The concern I have is when someone says they like to do something because they do it often because of SRS. That is not true most of the time. It's rarely true. If you really do enjoy liking to do something because a system tells you to do so, you would not be using words like grind, make time for, not wanting to, not having enough time, having to get through something, or having to do this to see something that you want to see later. You simply say, I look forward to this and I can't wait to do this, right? That is a cognitive dissonance that I hear so often with SRS. Now, what's important, what is a learning lesson, in my opinion, that I would like to encourage people when it comes to SRS or going to classes, going to tutoring, or something like that? I hope it reveals to whoever's using it what works. Like, what type of habit mechanically feeling emotionally, like what type of system can work for you. Like, if someone says, oh, high school didn't work for me, then the classroom environment might not work for you. You can always revisit and see if it works for you now. People do change, right? Because of experiences, you can view them differently. Like, structure can originally view as a restriction, and later in life, when you're an adult, you feel like you yearn for structure, right? That's kind of one of the talks about SRS. SRS provides structure. The thing is, the irony here, I think the dramatic irony here is a large majority of older, not like my age, but more like 20s who are outside of high school, they come back and now they see this SRS thing and they're like, oh, it's the best thing. It helps me do all these things. And my first thought is, well, what did you do in high school? Like, well, school didn't work for me because they told me when to study and when to do homework, and I didn't like any of the subjects. So, but the SRS part is not the subject, it's the schedule. So the idea is when someone says, oh, SRS is different, it's not. You're grinding through a prescribed timing. The belief is what changed, in my opinion. One of the biggest differences between when someone is in their 20s and someone in their high school is now they chose to believe in a prescriptional system. In high school, you believe everyone was out to get you, basically. Like, oh, I didn't want to go to school at 6 a.m. It's like, then how did you manage to get up at 6 a.m. for like the first 18 years of your life and go to school? Or not really 18 years, but let's just say 13 years of your life. SRS. You were given a schedule, you followed it. And then most of the people who said, oh, I wasn't very good at school, like, I didn't think I would be able to learn a language, but SRS has changed my life. It's like, yeah, because now you're an adult and you have revisited what it's like to have structure. It's the dramatic irony here is that's what school was trying to do. It was trying to test whether various different structures, despite them seeming the same, like you might be thinking, well, math, all the classes was just school in general. It's like, no, all of your classes have different structures. Your math class has a different syllabus from your physics class. They might seem similar cursorily when you were younger, because when you're younger, you're looking at the bigger picture most of the time. Like, if you hate math, then you might hate physics. If you hate going to school, then you hate every single class because they're all classes in a school. When you become an adult, there are many things that come into play that allows you to appreciate that a schedule, consistency is something you may want to get something done. And no, it's not because SRS is somehow magically better than formal education, in my opinion. Like, the argument for that requires a lot of leap of logic. It has to assume that the formal education is a schedule that you can't meet, and SRS is a schedule that you can meet. The inherent underlying principle behind both of them, the part that you hate, is not the talking topic. Most people will say, oh, math was the reason you sucked at going to school. It's like, no, the schedule is why you sucked at going to school. SRS, if you flip math for Japanese, somehow it changes itself. It's like, no, math and Japanese stay static as the content. It was the schedule that you believe in now that gets you to learn those things. In my opinion, it helps. It definitely helps if you're interested in the subject. For sure, when you're learning a subject, the schedule is very much not that necessarily attached to the context of the subject matter. So whenever someone says, oh yeah, SRS is the reason why you can learn Japanese, the schedule is the thing that allows you to be consistent. And being consistent is one of the human conditions that allow you to achieve something, whether you like it or not, and still improve. So that is a big one. And how does this tie with what I'm saying now? I think SRS to me is optional. Duolingo has a static curriculum. Wanikani and HanziHero, in the first month or two, we went along with it, and it's pretty interesting, the whole spacing out thing. Now, eventually, SRS can't provide, in my opinion, higher levels of comprehension. Like, what I mean is, it is not structured for comprehension. It is structured for space repetition. So, this is what I mean by the SRS. The scheduling is not what creates comprehension. The content is responsible for creating comprehension. SRS is independent of the content. Like, you memorize and recognize based on space repetition. It doesn't encourage you to become more comprehensible. Like, you don't comprehend more automatically. That comprehension is dependent on the content. SRS is not. SRS is a structure. It's a time management thing. So no matter how, in my opinion, again, this is talking about the average or the high propensity. Maybe there's like a 10% chance someone who decides to memorize lots and lots of characters over a couple years somehow magically inferred and created an emergence of comprehension of the things they're memorizing. That may happen. It is possible for like a visionary. I would say maybe 1 out of 100,000 people can suddenly see separate things and somehow imagine an overall larger emergence out of those small things. Possibly. That's a visionary. They might, I would say 1 out of 100,000, but it might be 1 out of a million. So for me, I want to emphasize that when you think SRS is responsible for your comprehension, that is a leap of logic. SRS is responsible for keeping you regular, keeping you consistent. The content and manipulation of the content, the capacity to manipulate the nature of the content, is where higher comprehension happens. So, why is this important at the stage I am in? I am trying to transform the content now. And the reason why SRS is not that great, not that important to me, is because I have a higher order organization. Stream schedules, obligations, my timing for comprehension, not the timing around memorization and recognition. So it can be great for foundational work, for sure, like helping memorize a bunch of things, and I still use that for this. So there are current characters in there that hey, I might not have enough comprehension yet. So the SRS, I'm kind of a middle ground, right? I'm still letting the SRS tell me the exposures. Now it's more like exposure for discovery. So that's my adaptation for that. If you want to stay at the memorization stage of things, find other things to memorize, right? And recognize. It's an exercise in diminished return on a skill that you're reaching comprehension levels. So, and most people actually habitually do this without consciously doing it. Like, you eventually say, oh, I know enough. You'll move on to reading manga, and then you leave SRS behind, right? You leave the memorization and recognition behind. That doesn't mean you can't integrate what you're doing with SRS retroactively. Like, you could read manga, take all of that manga, and infuse it into the trigger for your SRS. So, like, then it would stop being memory and recognition dependent per se, like memorization dependent. It would be analytically dependent. So you're making connections now. That to me is a defining step from beginner to an intermediate learner in a particular skill. Now, the reason why I'm saying in a particular skill is because there's a difference between someone who's doing it implicitly, like intuitively, or they're learning a transcribable skill that they can see themselves using it for other skills. I think the closest thing to that for most people is they believe memorization and recognition can be transferable skills. How well they memorize and recognize can be transferable to other topics. And that's true. And that is a glass ceiling. The more and more you rely on memorization and recognition, and then you keep spreading your time across trying to acquire new skills at that level, then those skills stay at that level. And the question that I often want to contend with is, can there be too much? Right? Like, can you end up trying to memorize and recognize things too much? I don't know how good other people's memories are. For myself, I believe there is a scaling problem. So a skill has to be elevated to comprehension, at least at an analytical level, an organized analytical application level, in order to move on to another skill that can start at memorization recognition. Because the scalability is inherently time crippling. So, like, if you're saying, all right, I'm going to use SRS to memorize a bunch of kanji, and then now you're like, okay, before you take your kanji and your Hanzi to comprehension level, you decide, I'm going to learn I'm just going to speed run. I'm going to learn another script. Let's go to Arabic language and then do the same routine, memorization, and all at the same time. That is not, to me, that will hit an upper limit problem. There will be a point in which someone will feel like they can't scale their memory to simply memorization recognition. Something has to elevate and condense and compress through analytics, comparison, and application, and if at all, even reach creation. But usually creation is optional. So for myself, the reason I did Chinese and Japanese is actually to actively compress, because they share a collective script. So when I'm memorizing one thing, I'm actually effectively trying to double the value of the memorization and recognition by encouraging myself naturally to create associations and comparisons and juxtaposition at the same time. That creates my motivation for using SRS, like for using the system. So my learning progress was not so much due to the idea that SRS is telling me when to review, because it didn't even matter. If SRS told me to review every day, I would have reviewed every day regardless of the matter. And that is something one has to keep in track of. If you're young and you're like, you can't even do one task regularly, right? It doesn't feel like it. This is a great starting point. Usually the starting point is school, though, right? Getting up at 7, going to school. And the thing about that is, early tests of a problem solver is that they improve over time doing a task at the regular time. Students who don't, they fail. They drop out of class. And then when they go to work, it might change, right? Like if they go to work and they adapt to work, that's good. I would argue that the vast majority of them will still have difficulties. Like if you go to work, schedule, need to improve over time, right? What does that sound like? It's school, but now with responsibilities. And then if that doesn't work, then you become unemployed. So now what do you do then? Well, you have to take care of yourself in order to get another shot at a task that requires you to be consistent again. So scheduling, problem solving, these are life skills. There are very few things you can accomplish by winging an unsustainable type of method. So SRS teaches you a methodology on how you space out things. For myself, it looks like it works really well. It works so well that the person who's using it becomes dependent on it, and they didn't extract what it's doing for them. So I hear this so often on forums. I read this so often on forums where someone's like, oh, don't worry, just SRS everything. And SRS just works. And I'm like, can you explain why it just works? Because if you can't, then you better hope that everything in the world can be converted into an SRS program, like as the foundation, because you'll never acquire the skills to do it yourself. You'll never acquire, like, you're going to be unable, and the longer you do it, the less and less you'll be able to do without it. Is that a bad thing? Not really, because it can be very possible. AI models, right? It is possible to live a life, I suppose, where a automated system is telling you when and where to do things. It's not my place to tell other people how to live their life, and if that lifestyle makes them happy. For myself, I can tell you what makes me happy. Being able to do whatever I want at whatever I schedule, whatever my mind is put to. Does that sound good to you? I don't know. Some people prefer not to have to think about that. They prefer not to have to think about when they need to eat, when to sleep, in order to get 8 hours of sleep. They prefer to be told how to get good hours, they prefer to be told how to feel rested. They like to be told or shown and done, like on the internet, all of the agencies that you have in life. SRS is definitely one of them. It's great to see how well it works, determine what works and what don't, and move on, in my opinion. And then you can go back and use that tool for what it does and how it does it and why it works. You don't go back to a tool because you can't live without it. That is my personal take on it. I don't prefer, when I need to mature and iterate and create, to be dependent on something without knowing how it works. I can choose to rely on a tool for sure and still know what it does and what it doesn't do, because that gives you agency. It gives you control over, all right, well, this other product is really, I really like the subject matter and the way this other product works, but they don't have SRS. It's like, well, that's fine. I don't need SRS for it to be successful. When you're saying like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be at the moment in like the mind of a young scholar nowadays, because their track mind is they're building the best as they're going. So when they learn that something works, they never stray away from it, iterate on it, learn from it, or extrapolate and transfer it. They simply rely on that same thing and they refine that wheel as hard as they can, and when it stops, they double down on the wheel. Like if one wheel doesn't work, try 2 wheels. If 2 wheels doesn't work, try 3 wheels. And on and on. And meanwhile, they're trying to use those wheels to get across a river. Well, you're not going to get across a river with wheels. Right? So that's my take on the whole SRS thing. Like, it's good to learn. When you say this works, explain it. Explain it to either yourself or to someone else why it works. This kind of ties with my Boom Pro digression earlier today about the communication. What is a great way to be inquisitive and curious? It's part of communication. Communication also involves explanation. So if you're telling someone like, oh, FSRS is better, explain. Explain why, how. First of all, explain why and how SRS works. Then explain the difference between FSRS and SRS, and then explain to yourself and others what happens when you don't use it or do use it, right? Because sometimes you don't even need to use a tool to be able to apply it somewhere else. Like, understanding that you need something means that it is absolutely essential, right? So how dependent you become is about your belief in essentialness. Like, what is an essential thing for humans? We need to eat. So when it comes to priorities, you probably want to invest in your essentials. Is SRS needed? I like to think that it is not. It is great to have and as an alternative to other types of scheduling. It's wild to me right now. It's hard for me to appreciate when someone says, this is the only way I can learn. Then there are going to be times where you're not going to learn anything. And there are going to be skills that you choose not to learn because it didn't fit your ideal model. Like, for example, making friends does not follow FSRS. And that sounds absurd, MAKU. Like, why would you think of relationships as FSRS? Well, if you learn everything based on your flexibility in SRS and how it's spaced out naturally for you, how do you schedule time to learn about your friends and learn about someone else? You think they're just going to randomly pop up on a regular basis to remind you that you should interact with them? And then when you learn, it has to be based on when you want to learn about the thing. So now when you think about, this is not a far-fetched anecdote, by the way, the parallelisms for how people learn about other people parallels the dependency on the tools they don't understand that's dictating their habits. Like, if you think you only learn when you want to learn, or you learn when a thing tells you to learn, then what do you do when you need to get to know someone? Do you do the same thing? For me, over the last 2.5 years, I have sufficient anecdotal evidence that would say it's a fairly strong coincidence or correlation with someone who thinks that everything revolves around an ideal schedule and everything they do tends to be around an ideal schedule that is prescribed to them, in which it is automated for them. So when they talk to humans and they need to learn about the human, deduce things, subtextually communicate with the human, practice a skill like communication with the human being, they treat it the same way. They expect humans to tell them when to talk to them, when to practice communication, and they expect that it happens in an ideal way that fits their schedule. And my first thought is, yikes. Well, if you have two humans that expect that, then they probably won't ever talk to each other. And now we get back to my whole, which I will not talk about today, the 2 to 3 hours of the interconnectedness of how Gen Z and possibly Gen Alpha is becoming one of the loneliest generations of all time, because most of their tools are dictating how their behavior is timed. So one of the underlying bases for why functionalities like apps and video games and data-driven targeting and algorithm-based like doom scrolling and whatnot, those are unforeseen. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to human beings who operate businesses. It's an unforeseen side effect that humans now no longer have agency over their time management and what makes them consistent, because habit formation and like the human condition in general is substituted by a saturation of habits that mask all of that. So like if you use SRS and you're telling yourself, man, I would hate to have to schedule this stuff for myself ever again, good luck with human beings. Like, good luck with, in my opinion, I really do have I don't want to see people fail to adapt to dynamic situations, like having a friend, going out to be kind to yourself and know that other human beings like to do that because they're not regular. They don't get triggered. You could argue some cynical person, in my opinion, like some devil's advocate, I'll counter argue to my own postulate right here, like my own conjectures here. They could argue, well, what if you had an AI agent, an agentic AI, mediate the conversation between two people? So then the two people trust in agentic AI to schedule their together time together. Like, yeah, sure. That could be a solution, right? We'll see if it happens. That's what's happening already, right? Like what I mean is, this practice is already happening. It's not that it's the majority, but it's already happening. An algorithm is a static entity right now. However, it's already happening in the sense of how you serve content to each other, right? A human being creates a type of content to reach other human beings. The mediator is the agentic AI, or more rudimentary, before it becomes a full-fledged agentic AI, would be like the algorithm or like some sort of internet interface, and it puts them into contact with another human being. Now, these two human beings, when you think about it, how well do they know each other? How good are they at interacting with each other, making time for each other? They're not. They're not making time there. It's called a parasocial relationship. They're engaging with an asynchronous version of another human being. That's what's happening. So the vast majority of interactions are asynchronous. They do not create habits based on each other. They create habits based on themselves. And they create the habits based on themselves that is prescribed by an agentic, at this point, we might as well use the word, an agentic interface. SRS is that too. When you are being told when to do something, when not to do something, if you do it without understanding what it's doing it for you, then you have no agency. You have no agency or control. over when and where you do something. How is this important to me? When someone says SRS is consuming their life, as though they didn't voluntarily choose to do so, you hear that. At least I hear that so many times over. Like, enough to know that it can confirm that a large majority of the people who quit are the ones who have no process, like, understanding of that they're voluntarily losing their agency. So then it no longer feels like they have control over it. So when someone says, oh yeah, I have 300 reviews to do, and so instead of taking care of themselves and organizing and reorganizing and improving upon their decision making, they decide, oh, I'm just going to brute force through this and feel more miserable. Progressively get worse. So then they progressively lose more and more sleep until they can't do it anymore. So they quit. And what is the feeling they're going to have, or typically have, when they quit? They failed themselves, and the system failed them. And the failing themselves part comes from the lack of voluntary agency, which hits far harder, in my opinion, than saying, oh, the system just didn't work for me. So you could enter a vicious cycle, which has happened already that I've noticed, where people enter a vicious cycle where they say, I'm not the problem. I'm definitely not the problem. It's definitely the system that's not working. Maybe I need to tweak the way the system works so that the second time I do it, it'll be more successful. And they go to do that. And then find out that, again, the worst feeling they have is they have no agency of their success because the system failed them again. Meanwhile, all outside of that, I watched them depend themselves, like be dependent on a system they don't understand. Like, they don't understand why it's not working, why it doesn't work. So they continue to try to improve upon something they don't understand. What does that kind of sound like right now that I typically topically mention? AI. When you consistently try to improve on something you don't understand, or why it works, or how it's working, if you don't understand it, how do you know that whatever you try to do and manipulate will yield predictable effects? So that's not that different from vibe coding and vibing your way through an imaginary SRS system and being unable, in my opinion, to describe to me what is it that SRS does for the person. When someone says SRS works, guess how they explain it to me 9 out of 10 times for those experts. They tell me because it works with CI. I'm like, okay, so then what does CI work? Like, well, CI does this and this, and if you combine CI with SRS, it's like the goated thing. And I'm like, what does CI have to do with SRS? And then I'm not saying there isn't anything. They simply didn't explain it to me. Like, I could explain it and try to rationalize why they think that combining CI, the concept of CI and SRS would be like a goated way to do something. It's not my responsibility, though. I'm not here to defend how I'm doing things. I'm not the one sitting around trying to convince other people to do things the way I do it. Like, I'm not here saying, hey guys, this is the top 10 hacks for how to stay consistent. I'm not doing that. I'm showing an example. That is the best, in my opinion, that is one of the ways to contribute to someone's curiosity and their body of alternatives. Prescribing something is a whole different story. So when you go up to someone and say, like, you should do this, trust me. I'm like, I don't remember the last time I've said that. without meaning it to be a joke. Like, I do not go up, like, in my opinion, it is so uncomfortable that someone who says they're educated and skilled at something or learning at something would go up to another person and say, do this, trust me. Did you do that when you learned your skill? Because if you did, I would not trust you. Like, respectfully, it doesn't mean you're not good at the skill you are. Like, you could be fluent in Japanese. I would still not trust you on the aspect of scheduling and understanding my agency and what I need to be successful. Like, I would not trust that part of an expert, because I would be able to ask that expert the ways of Japanese. Like, I could, at my convenience and my understanding of what I need and what I want to test, I can extract information from that expert. They are not someone who would be successful at making me successful at learning Japanese. That's different situation. Some people, a person would argue, well, they would be able to give you the information of Japanese and teach you the correct Japanese. It's like, yes, they would. They wouldn't make me successful at learning it, though. Successful at learning it is a different process. It's scheduling, being consistent, right? Whether the information is correct or not, how accurate it is, that is definitely something an expert will know that focuses on that. So, taking advice from an expert, are you looking for information or are you looking for your agency? Because no matter how good a tutor is, no matter how good a teacher is, if you don't step foot inside that class and learn how it's working for you and why you need that structure, you never show up for the class anyways. Your brain might even be checked out before you even listen to something. It's incredibly dramatically ironic when someone's later down the road, when someone tells me they hate high school, they really hate all this stuff, and then they spend like 90% of the time listening to an expert parasocially online and saying, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Like, what were you doing in class? Like, what were you doing in school? Did you think the person standing in front of the class didn't know more than you about a topic? Like, what changed? What was the difference? And usually that difference is fairly obvious. Rarely applied, though. Like, someone would say, well, on YouTube, I get to choose the thing I'm interested in to watch an expert talk about those things. All right, that's a start. Did you learn anything from them? Because you might be saying, oh yeah, I learned a lot. Explain to me. And they would be like, so, and they wouldn't be able to most of the time. It would be pretty like mediocre at best, because they weren't learning, they were consuming. So like when I test this myself, I'm pretty bad at certain things. Like when someone asks me, hey, what did you, like, for example, what did you doom scroll yesterday? I would forget like 50% of what I doom scrolled. I still bring 50% of what I doom scrolled. How much do you think people doom scroll, and how much do you think they learn from their doom scrolling? In my opinion, probably less than 50%. So like I've tested this like theory myself, like my narrative that I'm saying. Humans are not different from each other when their brain and their habits and their agency don't show up to something. You can be interested in something, consume a lot of its content, and learn next to nothing. Because learning requires comprehension. It is not solely based on memorization recognition. When you doom scroll and you see a bunch of things over and over again on a daily basis, what does that sound like? SRS. Why does SRS work? Or appear to work? Like, some people say like, oh, I'm learning some things. No, you're memorizing and recognizing something. It's part of learning. You haven't learned it through comprehension yet, but you're on the way to learning something. Because when you memorize something, it's like watching that same cat video the 16th time with a different iteration, and you realize that it's one thing. You haven't comprehended, analyzed, compared all the different iterations of the cat video to ascertain why the cat video is entertaining to you when you watch it on an algorithm. That is requiring of comprehension. So, yes, an exercise in diminished return is probably thinking that you can learn something without understanding what you're learning, how you're learning it, why you're learning it, and then comprehending the context itself. The process requires comprehension as well. Otherwise, you could end up doing the thing which, again, someone can be happy with. There are things I prefer to just consume. What do I prefer to consume? Brown noise. If you're wondering why it sounds like you might hear something in the background, brown noise. Brown noise is background. I use brown noise as a way to create consistency. I actually used music earlier, like maybe a month back. I used music as a stimuli. So I'm not learning from that music. I'm not learning from the brown noise. So you can use this. They're part of the process. My concern nowadays is it's like a constant uphill battle. It's an uphill battle in the sense that if someone asks me for help, I want to do the best I can to help them. If I choose to accept to help them, it is my responsibility once I accept it. If someone is asking me for a question and I'm just responding and they're not entrusting me for anything, that's fine. I will tell you stuff that I observe. Like, I'm not responsible. But I really, truly weigh my professional integrity very strongly. I don't necessarily think that other people weigh their competence and their capacity as much as I believe in them. So that is kind of what's upsetting to me, or sobering. I would say the word is sobering. When someone tells me they can't do something, like mentally they can't do something, they would say something like, well, I can't stay consistent. I just don't understand. I'm like, what do you do on a regular basis? Like, well, I love going on roadblocks and do this thing. It's like, and how often do you do that? Oh, 3 hours every single day. Have you ever asked yourself why do you and how that works? Like, how do you get on roadblocks for 3 hours a day so consistently? And you specifically just told me you can't be consistent. There's no way you can be consistent, right? That is what hurts. Like, that's what's sobering each and every day when I get online. When someone tells me something they obviously do every single day, however, their focus is somewhere else. There, at least in my opinion, something is happening in their regular life that would convince them that they can't do something, and I can point out an example of which they haven't investigated out of curiosity. Like, here's one thing that often happens, and I'll use a more mature topic. Alcohol dependency, right? I'm not saying alcohol abuse, alcohol dependency. Like, when someone wants to understand a potential problem or a potential solution or come up with something, you ask yourself what you know and what you don't know, and that curiosity will drive your exploration of that thing. Yes, addiction and emotion and all that stuff can still override your better judgment, for sure. Knowing about it is still effectively a step towards being able to create agency over it. So when you give in to your attention, even your anxiety and stuff, it's not that it will guarantee a solution. However, it's something you can do and actively try to encourage yourself that, especially mentally. I'm not talking about physical. Now we're going to go away from physical, because addiction it's not only mental, it's a form of physical, like attraction to, like, chemical agents can create a physical addiction, right? So we're going to go back to studying, because studying is most important in this discussion for myself. You can become addicted to studying. For real, and honestly, like, you can, with the understanding of how to achieve it. You can become addicted to suffering through studying and grinding through studying too. Those are possible. Now, my goal is probably to consistently encourage people to not underestimate their ability, especially for mental tasks, because where there's knowledge, there's some semblance of agency. And agency can really go a long way when you feel like you have no control over it. When you have no control over it, it is also easy to excuse yourself from being the problem. That is true. So there is a double edge. So let's play devil's advocate here. If you have agency, then it does feel worse oftentimes when you fail. Because if you have control, then a lot of the failure feels like it's because of you. That's fair. Now, when something succeeds and you have no agency, then the opposite is also true. You get dependency. So when that system fails, you have no other course of action to go, and no learning experience involved. So it's both, right? You decide. When it comes to learning something you want to learn, I favor someone who prefer to have agency over their choices, because that agency leads to learning about what works and what doesn't. When you relinquish agency, there is less capacity or potential for learning, and there's often a habitual nature of repeating the same mistake. That is the idea of not learning from your mistake versus learning from your mistake. To learn from mistakes require agency and control. Not learning from your mistakes is hoping, fingers crossed, that repetition mitigates something you don't understand. And that is what SRS does in spades. Like, without a doubt, I would say more than 50% of people believe that they are learning from their mistakes by making less of that mistake. That is not true. That is not learning from the mistake. It's overriding the mistake. You become more consistent at doing the right thing. You didn't learn anything about why you did the wrong thing, or why you made a mistake, or how you made the mistake. And that is something you can use for the future. You can choose not to learn from your mistakes, and then your mistakes will have no value ever carrying forward. So that unsatisfactory feeling when someone says, oh, I made the same mistake. Oh, I made the same mistake. Oh, I'm so frustrated I keep making the same mistake. I've been practicing and memorizing all the time, because you have no agency over it. You do not have control over your mistakes. You don't understand how your mistakes work. You didn't learn from the mistakes. You are overriding the mistake. So there's no satisfaction in that. Easy come, easy go. If it's so easy to override your mistakes, then you're going to make that mistake, and it's going to feel like crap, because you can't fix a mistake if you never learn from the mistake. You can't mitigate a mistake without understanding the mistake. You can avoid a mistake by doing something else. Repeating, memorizing, and recognizing avoids mistakes. You don't learn anything from the mistake. Now, does that sound attractive? It's up to you, right? For myself, I encourage people to learn from their mistakes the way I do, because that's the way that I prefer. I'm not saying you have to. or need to in order to be happy. I think right now, I would say if I gave someone like the red pill or the blue pill, right? The I forgot which one's which, but the blue pill means like everything is going well. You just keep doing whatever you're doing without having to worry about and understanding the world around you. Blue pill it, right? If you take the red pill, it's gonna be arduous, mechanical. You're gonna have to do a bunch of soul searching, looking at stuff, and it can become your new blue pill. Who knows? So that's the idea. Anyways, I thought I chime in on my motivations for what I'm doing now. SRS is behind us, right? SRS is behind us now. Although it was, to me, it was more like a 1 to 2 month window the first time I started. Then I immediately start adjusting for the schedule and how it balances my stream schedule with all my other projects, because I like the idea of managing my time and managing my output. It's different. I want to make a slight caveat here. It's not the same as someone who micromanages all their time and become flustered whenever their plans fall apart. So that's a different story. That's someone who goes really far in the other ends, where they're not able to account for and leave leeway for unpredictability. The hyper management person, the one that believes everything is predictable. So I rarely talk about that one because I don't come across that too often. Most people fall in the category where things fall out of control and they feel like they don't have control over them, because most of the stuff they have, they're dependent on. They're dependent on being told when to do. The other ones who believe everything is deterministic, that's a different story, because oftentimes if you hang out with them, they're like, okay, I planned out our entire itinerary. Let's stick to it. And my first thought is, did you put in like 2 or 3 hours in case something comes up? Did you put in like 2 or 3 hours to relax so that half of your day is planned and half of your day is not? That's me. I'm in between. I'm the person who knows that, well, there are unpredictable things in life too. So let's try not to derail all our plans based on the other form of idealism, the predictable nature of idealism versus the unpredictable ideals. Kind of a big deep cut. Anyways, let's go over this recall. I want to go over this recall before I end this. Hopefully I remember this. Let's do half of them. Let's do half of them for today, so I can be rested tomorrow. At least the first half, right? Okay, what do we have? That Wu, that helps us, right? Wu, Wu Yan. Oh, Eves. Oh, Chen. Good dress through life. Chen Nong. Chen Nong. You show off. Wei. Wei Jing. Ashes. Oops. Zheng, goodness. Zheng Zhuo. To consider. Hou Jie. Marquise. Heck. Something about uh uh so hard to see. I do see head in there. Oh, uh hand or fist. What is grasp? Yuan 用拳头 yes, to clench one's fist.折纸 origami. 干涸 dry up. 僵尸 vampire, zombie, etc. 关系 or 凶器 聆听 to listen. 禀报 report. This is the pivot. Superfluous. Tone shift. 发流 like a tresses or tress, like a dreadlocks. This is a pivot too. 辍学 to drop out of school. 布告 announce. 包 heck to monopolize. How long? What the? That's not. 标志 nope. Yes. 标志 scorch. 咸什么？显卡 idle chat idly. Wait. Yep. I had to cough. Pushing my voice a little too hard lately. Just a wee bit. Fun Fei. Wait, Fun Fei. No. Uh, yeah, Fan Fei. No, Fan Jue. Pivot. Fan Jue. To commit a crime. Solve and slurp noodles. Yan Sheng. Yan Sheng. Like to expand, to develop, to give rise to. What in the world? I'm gonna say Bing. Bing Fun. Vast and various. Is it Yun or Yun? Oh, Yun. Yun. Oof. Yun Jue. Wait. Shi Xing. Comet. 就甲 helmet and armor. Che Jui. Nope, not Jui. Tui. 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 Cripple. What is that in there? Oh, this is the Yi thing. Was it spirit? It was spirit, right? 什么生? Oh no, I don't know which spirit they used. Is it Jing? Okay. Jing Sheng. So Jing Sheng for spirit and Yi for vibrant or radiant. So in great spirits. 谢还是少邂邂逅 meet unexpectedly or meet by chance. The paper. Oh man, that is rough. Without bone, I don't know. Chen gu, cheekbone. Wu is a rough one too. Wu Ye, Wu Ying, Old Eagle. Du Qi, navel. Navel is a really weak one too. I don't talk about people's navels. Do helps a lot. This one as well. Xi Fu. Nope. Yes? No? No. That's not right. Fang Fu. Seams. These are a rough one. Super rough. Probably the bottom of the pack. Ji Yi. So both Ji and Yi are weak alone, but they are great together. Xiao Chui. Oh, this one's a bit questionable, but I kind of like it. Mallet. Ooh, this one, yeah, D cool, D cool. I mean, T cool helps out a lot. The cool really does help with the T. Otherwise, I would default to D. What is this? Oh yeah, this one's rough too. I mean, all of these are rough. That's why they're vocabulary words I added. The characters. I'm reminding myself which character is a weak character and what the mnemonic is for it, or like what was a weakness. So every time I'm reading a new the vocabulary word, I'm looking for the point of weakness. I'm basically going through and seeing where the weakness point is, and if it's subsiding, like if this alleviates it or not. In this case, yeah, this one's rough because it's wa di, low lying ground. Yep. 垂草 a hoe. No, it's actually not 垂, it's 除草. That's a weakness. Yeah, 除草. That's a hoe. 菜肴 vegetable and meat dish. Oh yeah, weak. Very weak. 镌刻 next to 刻 though. Engrave. Oh yeah. 抽 a bit of a weak one. Turn of an initial. 惆怅 melancholy. Jiao is really weak. Jiao Xing. Xing is a bit weak too. Together they're nice. That's one of the golden ones. Jiao Xing. Two weak characters coming together to make something strong. Ooh, this is rough. Zheng is rough. Zheng Liang. Like to make clear, basically, to like polish, clear, like shiny. Clear not in transparent, but clear as in shiny. Like clean, polishing till it's bright, shiny. That's, oof. That's barely on the edge at the moment. Oh, the two mutters are rough. Yeah, because of Du. Du is the weak one. Du Nong. Du Nong. Xing Ji. Ji is weak. Next to heart though, really awesome. Palpitation. Cheng Che. Like clear. Sit. Pivot. Nope. No. That is. Oh, Jing. Yeah. Nope. Cha is very weak. Although, Jing really helps. You'd be surprised. A bit of a weak one. Good. They're working. They're doing well. Du Nang. The other mutter. I picked up two duels because Du is an utterance that's weak. And it's coupled with two other mutters that are weak. Oh, pung pie. Tough one. Pung pie. Tempestuous. Impetuous. Usu. No. Yes. Usa. No. Su. No. Uni. That sucks. Ni is still a weak one. Dang. I need to sort out Ni and Su. Still a weak one. Jiao? Nope. Not Jiao. Yao Xing. Orthopedics. Nope. Dian Liang. Oh, weigh in hand. Weighing with the hands. Okay, one more row. Let's do one more row. Is it Zhang or Zheng? Oh no. It's Lan, right? Zhang. Jia. Dang it. Jia, not Zheng. Lan. Send help. Jing is the weak one here. Jingjie. Warning. Qian. Woof. Qian, send help. Tianfen. Cornstarch. Chou Yan. Smoke. Chan. Yeah, Chan is that other super unique cluster of categorical characters. Chan Hu. To lend an arm for support. Husk. Oh my goodness. Or chafe. Chaff, not chafe. Chaff. Dao Kang. A rice husk. That requires a pivot. Or pivoting. Yanping. Fake. Wu Yan. Console. Bo. Bo Jiao. Lame. Like a limp lame. Yao Mai. Thank you, Buckwheat. Mai for the win. Nong Pao. Thank you, Pao. Ushul. Oh, this is still weak though. Lagu. Rib. Yen. Yen Ying. Yen Ying. Yen Ying. Ooh. Mandarin duck. Alright. That's pretty good. So we hit the two of them. 2 or 3 of them are fine now. For now, temporarily. And then the other 2, some of them are still pretty unfortunate. Jalan. Okay. Alright, folks. That's a wrap for HanziHero today. Got my destiny with the bed early, and then we're gonna spend quite some time with the anniversary of Persona 5 to Phantom X on the global server tomorrow. And we're having a level 60 the day after on Wanikani. Basically retiring Wanikani from like coverage, but retiring it to like an extended time period. Alright, folks, if you're gonna watch this later, cheers. As always, feel free to follow along, pick up HanziHero for yourself, give it a go. You're always welcome to come on by, yap, discuss, talk about things, right? Explain things to each other, understand how, why, encourage each other to motivate each other for agency and curiosity. Until next time, 大家下次见，感谢观看. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.